Okay, hold on, stop. Don't start that car yet. I'm going to tell you how to do it safely.
Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank you all for being part of it. I hope everybody's new year is starting out fabulous. Have positive thoughts for a great new year. It's 2024. Let's make it great, okay? Now, today we're going to do something that should have been done probably a couple of weeks ago, but we got a little behind with the holidays. I received an email and a few comments in a video asking, can you do a video on how to winterize the VW Beetle to put it in storage? Now, honestly, this can go with all cars mostly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go over that. It'll be a short video, but Heather stepped in to help me out, and I appreciate it because sometimes when there's two people in what we call a short documentary, it kind of helps. So let's get on it. So what we're first going to talk about is something Heather complains about is salt on the roads. And it eats away the cars. So what we're going to say first here is winterizing and storage is two different things. So one would be that there is a lot of salt in the roads, which causes rust. And rust is not our friend, it's our enemy.
If you do want to use your car in the winter, I would suggest at least going after you've used it to the car wash and hosing all the salt off. Even before you put it into storage, I would make sure you wash it really well.
Yeah.
Before putting into storage also.
Right. Because when you hose the salt off of it, you're preventing rust.
Yeah.
You know, so
I do it with our regular daily driver.
Yeah.
I go once a week and
once
take
a
it
week
through,
she does.
even in the dead of winter because of the salt.
Right. So that's the first thing. The salt on the roads is what causes these problems and moisture. So if you're going to put it in storage, get the salt off of it really well if there's any on it. If you're going to use it in the winter, then at least once a week, hose it off real good and get the salt off of it. Okay, that's the start of this. Let's go further.
And I may add, if it's accessible, try to run it a few times a week to keep the seals from drying out. Now that's if the roads are dry and free of salt. You might want to take it out and stretch its legs.
And that was a good point because we've looked at a few cars over the years, and from Heather being around the car scene, so to speak, forever, I'm not claiming she's a mechanic. I'm just saying she knows her ins and outs. And we went to look at a few cars over the years. They would brag to Heather basically and say, this car's been sitting for 20 years in here. And she would say right out, that isn't good that they don't move that long. Is the engine freed up? Is there seals leaking everywhere now? Because your seals and everything will dry rot. And I know I went on a big journey there, but I was adding on to Heather saying, get the car out and stretch its legs a little if there's no salt in the roads.
Look, we've bought cars that the tires are brand new.
Yeah.
And they were dry rotted from sitting.
Exactly.
Not that we bought it because of the tires, but
right.
We knew. So
exactly. And that was a good point you brought up. So let's go on to the next thing with storage and winterizing. All right, so we're moving along now. The next thing obviously would be your battery. Okay. This is just an extra battery I keep around the garage to start cars and do will it run and stuff like that and things of that nature. But it lasts long because a lot of times I run a battery tender on it, even though it's not of use in an everyday car. But where I'm going with this is your battery. Nobody wants to spend $125 every year on a battery. So the best thing you can do is, if it's in your own garage, safely hook up a battery tender to it, okay? And that will, I'm not going to get into big detail about battery tenders. You can do your research. It will keep that battery in perfect condition. So you can't forget to do that. Now, if some of them have a storage unit.
If your storage unit does not have power, then you could take your battery out and bring it home and attach one of these battery tenders.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you. This here actually.
Because a lot of storage units don't.
No,
or,
they really
people
don't.
Will rent a garage. They don't have
have power, and that's the thing. So taking the battery out of Beetle is quite simple. Pull the back seat up, or even if you have an American car or a Jetta, just lift the hood and pop the battery out, bring it home. But like Heather said, safely put it somewhere and put a battery tender on it. Okay, and there's many different kinds. This happens to be a name brand and works quite well. and it will charge as needed, and it'll stop charging as needed. So definitely do that. And you should have your battery for 5 or 6 years, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe longer, possibly,
Yeah,
you know. So that's the next thing on the hit list. Let's move along.
Some say to drain the gas tank, but that's a heck of a lot to do.
It is, because you got to drain the whole system.
Remember, when you go to restart it in the spring,
It can end up cranky because the system's all drained out, and that can cause a lot of aggravation. If you feel comfortable draining the whole system, go ahead. That's fine, to each their own. But I think it's very unnecessary when we have a lot of products that we have now. And truthfully, our gas breaks down quickly with the ethanol in it. And we know that for a fact. We have found that out. So what I like to do is Stable 360. Okay, now, no, I'm not promoting Stable. I have nothing to do with this company. If you have a different product, go ahead.
Yeah, but we've been using this for years.
We've been using it for a long time. This is a dirty bottle that I have in my garage. But here's why.
Well, you only use 1 ounce to 5 gallon.
Yeah. And how many ounces is that? That is 10 ounces,
10
right?
ounces, yeah.
I thought so. So truthfully, this goes a long way. It really, really does. So that's what we've always stuck to, is the Stable 360. My best advice to you is to pour in the right amount, okay? Then take the car, fill the tank up. Take it for about a 5-mile, 8-mile ride.
That's the fun part.
And that's it. It's all through your system. It's in your tank, through the line, through the fuel pump, and into the carburetor, especially the bowl. So that's what I recommend to do. If in fact you do that, you will be fine, because we've never had an issue. After storage, we start the car up and it just fires right up.
Fires right up,
yeah, like there's brand new fuel in it.
Yep.
So,
and I always remind him every year, like he's going to forget, did you put Stable in the tank?
She does.
Because I know how well it works.
Well, and you've asked every year, do we need Stable? Do we need Stable? Because we had her Nova, we had a Beetle years ago, which we've had many Beetles. But it's nice to get the Stable. You can get it at Walmart or AutoZone or wherever you go. So,
yeah.
And if you think there's something different through, you know, Lucas or somebody, just make sure you use something in the fuel system.
And follow the instructions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Guys don't follow instructions.
Yeah, but you guys need to.
On to the next thing.
Car covers. Just as you see here, make sure you get a breathable car cover, and it's high quality.
Absolutely, because there are some, you know, and I'm not going to name where, but on the internet, where universal car covers, and they're $25. Well, you kind of get what you pay for, like Heather always says. And if it's not breathable, it's going to trap moisture, and then you're going to have serious issues. So as Heather said, technically, make sure you get a good quality one, because if you don't, you're going to be very unhappy when you go to uncover your car come spring.
Yes.
Okay, on to the next one.
I am curious, though.
What's that?
Why do people overinflate their tires before they put them into storage?
That is a good question, and we were talking about that earlier. A lot of times, extended storage, some say it's a myth, but it's not. You will get flat spots in your tires. Now, I believe sometimes it comes from age of the tire also. But we had flat spots on one of our cars.
That was our BMW. I remember that.
Yeah, you are right. It sat for quite some time, and I bought it, and the lady did tell us it sat for about 6 years or something. Okay, so that's longer than winter storage. But I drove it, and I was pulling my hair out. I'm like, what is wrong? Where's this vibration from? It was flat spots on the tires. So a lot of times people will choose to overinflate them. Now, don't be an idiot and put 300 pounds of air in. You're going to blow yourself up. You're going to go ahead and overinflate them slightly. Read the tire, just like Heather says. Follow directions and see the maximum pressure. And when you do that, it will help assist in keeping the tires more round. And a lot of people like to jack their cars up on jack stands, and we'll go over that too.
And most important, make sure you wash, wax, and make sure everything is dry, especially all the seals, anywhere that water will lay.
Oh yeah, because that can cause serious issues, especially if water is just laying in one area. Make sure that car is bone dry. And if you can, this isn't a bad idea, is to
get yourself a buffer.
Exactly. These are nice. This one's from Vever, and I'm not getting into a whole commercial. That's not where I was going with this. Is get yourself a buffer and buff the car out if you have experience at it. Don't burn your paint. If you can buff it out and get it really clean, and then you're covering it up, it's a huge bonus. It really is. So that's just something I wanted to throw in there. I'm not telling you what to buy. I'm just telling you that it does help out. So that's another added bonus, I believe, for winter storage.
A lot of people like to use jack stands to keep it elevated off the ground. And the reason being is to prevent flat spots on the tires. And distancing it off the ground keeps you away from the gravel and the moisture.
Now, one thing Heather brought up, and she said about keeping it elevated off the ground because of possible gravel and that for moisture hitting the car. Here is something that might cost you a little money, but not a lot. And if you have a gravel floor or something with a lot of moisture, but that's all you have, is your carport or what have you, it might not be a bad idea to get a can of fluid film. And if you want to do that, that's up to you. It's your car. And if you hit some fluid film underneath, it will help prevent rust from starting to form underneath the car. Fluid film's great. It does work good. Didn't we use that on your Nova?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it helped a lot. I think Heather bought 3 or 4 cans. I can't remember. But a Nova is a little bit bigger of a car. So, I mean, but she researched it and was like, I'm buying fluid film. It'll be in the mail. It's coming to the house. And we did her Nova when we had it. So that's something else you want to do. You want to protect it. All this to you may seem like a little bit too much, but it's really not, because we're treasuring these dang cars that we've had, you know, for quite some time, that we put a lot of money into. So on to the next thing.
Okay, guys, and your little fast food trips and your crumbs all over the car while you're eating and driving, and you all do it, make sure you clean that out very well. Vacuum before storage.
Yeah.
Insects, rodents,
Yeah.
mice will smell stuff from a mile away.
And you're right.
You don't want mice in your car.
No, because then it ends up chewing up your rubber hoses, your brake hoses, your wiring, your seats. They get into the glove box.
And depending where you're at, if you're near rivers and stuff too.
Right.
Rats.
And what happens? Jason, 5150 MX, a very personal friend of ours, every rescue he goes on, he's always saying about mouse poop, and he runs into a lot of it to the point where he's wearing a mask, which is smart to do, getting it all cleaned out. So it's very vital that you do what Heather recommended. Vacuum the car out really well. Vacuum your trunk. You know, we're going to car cruises, we're eating hot dogs, you know, what have you. So that was a really good point to bring up. Very.
You may not think there's a few crumbs, but just give it a quick vacuum.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing major, just to make sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. That was great. That one came from Heather too. Okay, now obviously there's no windshield in this car. See, I have a windshield wiper arm. I just kind of stuck on her real fast. One thing you do want to do is put something, a piece of cardboard or anything, between the wiper blade and between the windshield. And the reason being, you don't want the rubber sill sitting against the windshield all winter long and then getting a permanent flex to them, you know, from the cold especially. Now, I know some people recommend, just do that. Leave it that way. Don't do that. I'm right. They're wrong. And I'll tell you why. And I'm usually not cocky that way. When you do that, okay, when you decide that you want to bend this wiper back and leave it like that, you are stretching the spring. When you don't, hopefully I don't catch my finger, the spring is in an untensioned position. You don't want to keep tension on a spring like that with it in that position. You're going to keep the spring stretched, which isn't good, and then it can lose some of its tension. I know I'm right about this, folks. So that's what you want to do. Just take it and put a thin piece of cardboard or maybe a cloth, a microfiber cloth, between the rubber blade and your windshield, and you'll be in good shape.
Something else important that you might want to do during winter is once a month, pump your brake pedal. Even if it's in storage, if you can access it easily, just like this. just a couple of times a month during winter storage, if accessible. And that should keep your braking system moving freely. And you also may want to, with the button in, move your handbrake up and down to keep the cables moving freely.
One thing you might want to do, which is really important, is change your oil before storage, because you have a lot of dirt and impurities and moisture in your oil, and that really could cause corrosion in the bearings and other components. So to keep your baby smooth, make sure that you change the oil in it. Drain it all out real well, put fresh oil in it for storage. You'll thank yourself down the road, trust me, and use a good quality oil. I am going to do a video soon on oils and what weights to run. That'll be sure to light up the comment section.
Okay, so your car is nice and cozy and all stored warm and snug like a little bug in a rug for winter. So what about after winter? When you want to bring it out of storage, what do you do?
Well, there are things to do, and that's a really good question. So now we'll go over that next. Now, a really good idea to do first is let the air back out of the tires down to the normal pressure that what you need. Okay, some people run different pressures in the front. Do what you feels right. But that's the first thing. Check the tire pressure, and something handy to have on hand. This is something you really want to have, okay? And it's not just for storage. It's to keep in your car, no matter what one it is. Company send this to me, and I'll do a video separately on this. I'm just trying to show you something. This you charge up and keep it in your car. That way you don't need to plug into a power port. And you can go right over and put it on the tire, and you'll be up to 52 pounds in 5 seconds. However, that's not the pressure you should run in your Beetle. But this is nice to have on hand if you don't have access to a compressor or air if your car is in storage somewhere. So get a portable unit, and we'll go over this another time.
Okay, and like Slade brought up about putting cardboard in between the wipers in the windshield, you want to remove that. Check the rubbers to make sure they're soft and not broken or corroded from sitting over winter. Okay, and if you've listened to me, you did check your brakes a couple times a month and make sure they were moving freely, but you want to do that now to make sure they're still moving freely.
All right, so now it's spring, and we are back to the engine again. Hopefully your engine is in your car, not like mine sitting under a bench. You will check just briefly and make sure that there are no leaks. Check the oil to make sure it's full. If you have some leaks to tend to, yeah, you probably should have did it over winter, but if you don't have the means to it and it's too cold, just check and make sure you don't have any leaks or anything bad going on, because you want to enjoy the spring and summer.
Okay, your lights. Obviously, I can't show you, but make sure your high beams, your headlights, your brake lights, everything is in working order and that nothing is failing.
Now, here's something very important that could possibly help prevent a fire. Make sure you check all your fuel hoses when it comes springtime, okay? Just for rodents or anything that may have chewed into them. That's very important. So check your fuel lines out and make sure everything is safe before trying to start the car.
Okay, make sure to check your brake fluid and make sure it's full. Obviously, we need new brake hoses, but yours won't look like this, hopefully. Just make sure no rodents got into it and chewed them.
Okay, so now it's time to put your battery back in the car if you've removed it, okay? And it's time to hook your cables back up. Hook up your positive first and then hook the negative. That's the way I like to do it. And it makes it a little bit more safer, okay? Now, once you do that, if you have the means, hook up a voltmeter. You can buy them real cheap, and then go ahead and test and see where your voltage is at on your battery. If you didn't run a battery tender, that's the best thing to do, is check. And it should be riding around 12.6 to 12.8 volts. So hopefully you did use a battery tender though.
Okay, hold on, stop. Don't start that car yet. I'm going to tell you how to do it safely. It's not a bad idea to disconnect the coil and crank the engine until the oil light goes out. The reason for this is you want the oil circulating through the motor before you start it.
And that's very accurate, because your motor has sat all winter unless you started it a few times a month or took it for short stints. However, when your motor is sitting that long, you know the deal. You want everything lubricated. So what Heather said, and she's right, disconnect that coil and crank it till that oil light goes out. Make sure you build up pressure. So when you do start it, you're at 1200 RPM or wherever you're at, the oil's already through the motor.
Something good to have on hand is a jump starter, even for all your vehicles. These are nice to have on hand because if you do run into an issue after storage, it comes with a cable and it also has the pack, and you won't have to call a tow truck.
And that was something very important because I'm going to do an updated video in the near future of what to carry in your air-cooled Volkswagen. This was sent to me by a company. I still got to do a review on it, but they do come with the cables. There's your jump pack that you carry in your vehicle, and you just hook the cables up and start your car. You don't have to call a tow truck or a friend or burn something up trying to do it a weird way. So it's nice to have a jump pack, especially if it's been in storage and you didn't use a battery tender or what have you. But a jump pack's nice to carry in your car, and they're not that expensive. One tow bill equals what this cost. So you want to do that, and I appreciate how they're bringing that up. All right, so that was your how to winterize and store your air-cooled Volkswagen. Now, if you do have a Jetta or a Chevy Chevelle or what have you, make sure to also check and flush your antifreeze, that it is good for temperatures below freezing. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was actually
I liked to learn about the after. Nobody talks about after storage.
Not many do.
No.
So that was actually good.
Yeah.
Heather brought that up while we were formatting this video and said, what do you do after storage? I'm like, I never even thought about that. So that was a really good idea.
So you kind of go backwards. You go in and then you back.
And that was kind of put in place by her, which was really cute, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing in the next week or two. I'm going to start doing about 3 videos a week because the car needs done by May. Because we're going to have our Slades VW first annual get together. For those of you that can make it, I know some live far, and I understand that. It probably is going to be end of May, hopefully. I'll make an announcement soon. The next thing that I did bring up is I'm going to, as soon as spring comes, and the weather breaks, because the Ghia will be in here, I'll be doing this still, but the Ghia is going to get a full restoration. It has to. I'm going to run a nice Cat 6 Ethernet line to my garage. I get to dig underground, blah, blah. And I'm going to take and still do my couple videos every week, but we're going to do something fun, and Heather can help a little bit too, is once a month or maybe twice a month, we're going to do a live feed right in the garage.
That'll be fun.
And also, and that'll be our monthly club meeting. And then I'm going to do a live feed at least once a month working on the car live. I think that'll be a blast.
It will be.
We just need to get a day every month and time figured out to where all can enjoy it. If I can do a Wi-Fi extender from the house, we may do this a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that yet, if it'll reach that far. So that's a few things. If you made it this far in the video, I thank you. If you didn't, you're not seeing this and you're going to have no idea what's going on. But I can't help that. Try to watch the whole videos so you know what's going on, because this is where I explain every situation and what we're going to do. I hope everybody's New Year is starting out well. We had a great time with some friends.
Yep.
And we will see you again next week, and also with a live chat coming up very soon.